This is the story of Mr. Rush. Mr. Rush was the fastest thing on two legs. He used to rush hither and thither, and thither and hither and back again all the time. And of course, he was always in such a rush that he never ever finished anything properly. Oh, dearie me. One morning, he woke up with a jump. He'd only had time for 3 hours' sleep, because he'd been rushing about for so long the day before. Oh dear, he cried, leaping out of bed. I'm late. And he rushed into his bathroom and washed, not very well as he was in such a hurry, and cleaned one tooth and rushed downstairs, 3 at a time. Very funny shape, isn't he? Mr. Rush had a boiled egg and toast and a cup of tea for breakfast. He boiled the egg for 5 seconds and it tasted awful. He toasted the bread for 1 second so it wasn't brown at all, and as he couldn't bear to wait for the kettle to boil, he made his tea with cold water. Ugh, what a horrid breakfast. And of course he was in such a rush, he only ate half of it. Rush, 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 silly fellow. After half his breakfast, he rushed off again, out of his front door, leaving it open, down his garden path and out of his garden gate, leaving it open too, and off down the lane. Mr. Rush rushed around all morning, and then rushed home, had a quick bite to eat, a sandwich without bread, and then rushed off again, and rushed around all afternoon. And what he's doing all the time. That evening, he was reading a magazine. He never had time to read a book when he saw an advertisement for a holiday. Ooh, he said, I'd like that. Haven't had a holiday for ages. But then his face fell. I can't go on holiday, he thought, because I don't have any money. And then he thought again, and his face rose. I know, he thought. I'll get a job. And so the following morning he rushed off and got a job with a farmer, milking cows. But of course he wasn't any good at that, because if there's one thing a cow can't stand, it's being rushed, especially when she's being milked. So Mr. Rush rushed off and got himself another job, driving a bus. But of course he wasn't any good at that, because he was always in such a rush he never stopped at any of the bus stops. And if there's one thing people waiting at a bus stop don't like, it's when the bus doesn't stop for them. They don't look very happy, do they? So Mr. Rush rushed off and got himself another job as a waiter in a hotel. But of course he wasn't any good at that, because no sooner had he served people a meal and they'd taken one bite than he whisked the plate away from under their noses. And if there's one thing hungry people can't stand, it's having food whisked away from them. You know that's true, isn't it? Poor Mr. Rush, no job, no money. Oh dear, he sighed to himself. I'm never going to be able to go on holiday. He looked very glum and gloomy. Then an idea struck him. An idea for a job for someone who rushes around all the time. An ideal job for someone who was the fastest thing on two legs. Do you know what that job was? Would you like to know what that job was? Bet you would. It was a postman, delivering express letters. Mr. Rush was so good at it, he delivered twice as many letters in half the time as any postman had ever done before. Soon he had saved enough money for that holiday of his. There we are. And so, the very next week, there was Mr. Rush sitting on a beach in the hot sunshine under a palm tree on holiday. This is the life, he grinned, and rushed off for a swim. His 15th that day, and then it was breakfast time. Oh, there we are, Tyler. That was Mr. Rush, him with the pointy nose. Tomorrow it's Mr. Tall. And it was brilliant to see you today. I have missed you so, so much. I love you heaps and heaps and heaps, and Grandad loves you as well. But Grandad's going to go see there's Mr. Tall ready for tomorrow. But Grandad's in the garden, watering the garden. So tomorrow he'll say night-night to you as well. So night-night, don't let the bedbugs bite. Be good for Daddy. And remember, next time we come round, we're playing football. Love you, darling. Night-night.